ladies and gentlemen, Bill Collins.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. You're very kind. As I've mentioned before, Gary is taking a well-deserved vacation. I'm doing my best to fill in for him, and we have a real believe it or not coming up for you. First, we have a man who claims not only to have seen a flying saucer, but get this, to have entered the space vehicle and had contact with extraterrestrial beings. It's a wild story, and we're going to find out more about it after I summon our wild panel out here on stage. Panel, come on out on stage.
Nipsey Russell. Kitty Carlisle. Orson Bean. And Peggy Cass.
And there they are, the big improvements since I sat there. All right, I will begin, if I may, by taking a little survey. You can raise your hands or sing out whatever you want to do. How many of you really believe there is life on other planets? Any
What
other
kind of life?
Mushrooms.
Mushroom, no. Intelligent life.
Of course there are.
Okay, we got 1 4. Nipsey, you too.
Today at noon, we got a message from the moon. It came through the air loud and clear.
Yeah.
Said, never mind the missiles and the astronauts. Send some booze and some broads up here.
There's money to be made. Do any of you believe in flying saucers as something aside from unidentifiable objects?
Highly unlikely.
I don't.
Okay, one last question. How many believe there is a real Mark Goodson or Bill Todman?
I do. I do.
You don't? Okay, we'll be sitting in for somebody next week right there. Right now, let us meet a man who claims to have had contact with beings from outer space.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Charles Hickson.
Number 2.
My name is Charles Hickson.
Number 3.
My name is Charles Hickson.
Okay, if you listen carefully to Charles Hickson's unidentified flying story. I, Charles Hickson, underwent an utterly mind-boggling experience on October 11th, 1973, while fishing with a young friend. I noticed a bright blue flashing object in the sky. It hovered above us, then landed nearby, and one end of the craft opened up, and to my astonishment, 3 light gray creatures appeared. They were about 5 feet tall, with wrinkled skin, pointed ears, holes below their noses, and had crab-like claws for hands. Before I knew it, 2 of them had me by each arm, lifted me off the ground and into their space vehicle. Meanwhile, my friend passed out. On board the craft, I was examined for 15 or 20 minutes by what appeared to be a large, menacing eye. The creatures then removed me from the saucer and then sort of floated my friend and me back to where we'd been fishing. Later, in an effort to substantiate my report of what happened, I submitted to hypnosis and underwent a lie detector test. My story remained unshakable. I think you'll find that the same will be true after my questioning from the To Tell the Truth panel. Signed, Charles Hickson. Okay, we'll be back to some outer space talk after a couple of out-of-this-world commercials.
Grab a seat. Hold on tight. Rodeo action.
The gentleman across from us claimed to be Charles Hickson, who has had actual contact with beings from beyond the solar system. Let's start the questioning with Orson Bean.
Thank you, Zog. Number 1, after the beings floated you back to where you'd been fishing, did you catch anything?
Not very much.
No. Number 2, a lie detector test successfully passed simply indicates that you believe what you're saying, right? Not necessarily what you're saying is true. Isn't that correct? I meant to say number 3. Is that right?
As far as I'm concerned, it's true.
Yeah, but that's what a polygraph test proves, is that you believe you're telling the truth. Not that you are, in fact, telling the truth, but that you believe yourself to be telling the truth, correct?
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Number 3, who is Godzilla? Godzilla? Don't know? Well, it's an obscure. Number 1, the little gray people with the claw-like hands, did they have thumbs?
No, not thumbs.
Well, did they have something that, how could they pick anything up if they, or do you mean claws like lobsters?
They had some.
I'm sorry, the buzzer hit there. I was anxious to hear the answer. Peggy.
Thank you. Now, number 2, this large, menacing eye that, you know, interrogated, that stared at you on the inside of the plane. Was there any body attached to that eye, or was it just an eye?
No, it was just an eye.
Like a great big fried egg, sort of, right? Nothing to it but that.
It looked like a real eye. It was.
Well, now, was it an eye that was projected on a screen, or could you go pluck an eyelash out of it? No, I mean, was it a real eye? A true, substantial eye?
It looked like an eye. It looked like a real eye,
Okay.
except it was larger.
Number 3, has this experience changed your life at all?
Yes, ma'am, sure has.
In what way?
It's amazing. Just so many calls and letters and news people, things of this nature.
Thank you. Number 1, where did this happen? In what state?
Mississippi.
And number 2, where did your experience happen?
In Mississippi.
Oh, it all happened in Mississippi. Number 3, what was the color of the interior of the saucer?
Well, there you are. Nipsey, you were one of those who said you believed in intelligent life somewhere else. What would you like to ask?
Number 3, what were you drinking that night? I asked that because you said friend passed out. Was it from shock or from something?
I kind of wished I'd have passed out with him, to tell you the truth.
Number 2, was there any language communication in this whole examination of you? Did you say anything to them, or did they say anything to you?
No, I yelled, and there was a buzzing. There was kind of a buzzing sound.
I
from
see.
one of them.
Number 1, what kind of force was exerted on you? Did you have the power to resist or to restrain yourself, or was you sort of hypnotized?
I didn't have any power to resist, no.
I see. When they floated you back, what did they float you back in or on?
They themselves had hold of me.
But I mean, what kept you in suspension?
I don't know.
I see. Number 3, can you tell me, if when you're under hypnosis and you answered these questions, were you aware that you were being asked these questions? Were you completely out of contact with your interviewer?
No, I was aware that I was answering the questions.
So what?
All right, Kitty, you look skeptical, but please go on.
Number 1, it says here that they examined you for 15 or 20 minutes. Does that mean they took off your clothes and examined your body, or did they ask you questions?
No, they didn't ask me questions, or they didn't remove my clothes. They examined me with my clothes on.
I see, but they went over you with their claws and they looked. Did they touch you?
The only place that they touched me was on my arms, where they had hold of me.
I see. And number 2, were you aware of a language passing between you?
No, there was no language that I was aware of. I think they were robots, really.
Oh, I see. Robots in what sense? You mean directed from some other place? Moving by electricity or what?
I would think so. I mean, the buzzing could have been communication to the robots.
I see. Number 3, was there some kind of a follow-up to this story? Did you take anything away with you, or was something found, or?
No, nothing.
Nothing at all.
Okay, and that's all we have time for as far as our questions are concerned. It's time to vote. So, panel, if you mark your ballots, please, for either number 1, number 2, or number 3. As always, $50 for each wrong vote, and if the entire panel votes incorrectly, $500. And, okay, all marked. Orson, you ran out of ink there.
I just put ink all over
goodness.
them.
Orson voted on his hand.
Yeah, I voted on my hand. I can get back into the dance now. Anyway. Well, I don't think number 2 has ever been even close to Mississippi and gotten away alive. I voted for number 1 because I think he looks like the kind of a man who has lived through an experience like this and been sobered by it somehow, as I have.
And you have a flying saucer there. Peggy?
Well, I was going to vote for number 1, but you know something? Number 2 never smiled or anything. I mean, I think he is a true believer, so I voted for him.
A vote for the true believer. What do you do, Nipsey?
Well, I've been picked up by creatures of that description, but they were just ugly girls. So I voted for number 3 on a hunch.
Just one big eye there in the rumble seat examining you. Kitty, what do you say?
There's no such thing as an ugly girl.
That's right.
I voted for number 1. He looks like the kind of a gentleman that this conceivably did happen to. And
Would you like to go on with that, Kitty?
How do you mean that?
Yeah.
well, because it's like somebody said, he looks very sobered by the experience.
All right.
That's you.
We have 2 votes
I
for
heard it
number 1,
somewhere.
and we have 1 vote for number 2 and 1 vote for number 3. So they're in. Will the real Charles Hickson please stand up? Mr. Hickson, I would like to talk to you in just a moment, but first let us find out who your imposters are. Number 2, what is your name, sir, and what do you do?
My name is James Mopan. I'm a supervisor with the Department of Social Services in Brooklyn, New York.
And according to Kitty, you look like you've had quite an experience, number 2. Number 3, who are you, sir?
My name is Larry Addison. I'm with Swift Textiles here in New York.
Mr. Hickson, I imagine in addition, sir, to the polygraph test and scientific examinations, you've been questioned extensively, too, have you not?
Yes, that's correct.
Has anybody shown any serious doubts, anybody of authority, about your story? Isn't that what you tell them?
Not to my knowledge.
Were you communicated with? According to what you tell us, nothing was said to you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you get any feeling from these other creatures or beings, whatever they were, that they were perhaps trying to communicate with you?
No, I don't think they were trying to communicate with me.
Do you think they'll be back, Mr. Hickson?
Oh.
Seriously?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, I think so.
Do you have any idea where they're going to come this time?
I have no idea.
You're going to come looking for him. They liked him.
Yeah.
Tell him I don't believe
I
it.
just like to keep Mr. Hickson around, and when they're on their way, sell tickets to the whole event. In any event, it was an interesting story. I do not disbelieve it because I do believe there is life, as some of us do, in other places. And thank you in any event, Charles Hickson and Imposters, for being with us on To Tell the Truth. We have coming up next a lady who spent a lot of time in the timeless jungles of Peru. Actually, she's written a fascinating book about her adventures. It's called To Hunt in the Morning. And we'll be back to turn the pages in just a couple of minutes.
It's Backwards Day, Club AM, and the Prime Time. And Prime Time is on this morning, so it's a tribute to...
Now let's meet a lady who lived with primitive Indians in the jungles of Peru.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Janet Siskind.
Number 2.
My name is Janet Siskind.
Number 3.
My name is Janet Siskind.
And here are Janet Siskind's Peruvian paragraphs. I, Janet Siskind, lived for many months in the jungles of Peru. As an anthropologist, I was there to study and record the ways of the Sharanawa Indians. I found my way into their society and shared their lives. The Sharanawa have a simple and primitive society. However, as individuals, they are sophisticated and complex. They wear Western clothes, but paint their faces. They trade with the outside world, but don't consider themselves citizens of Peru. The men are hunters. They prefer to eat deer or tapir, but will settle for a monkey or wild bird. The women never hunt. They farm and collect palm nuts, edible fungi, and wild fruits. Naturally, I was not allowed to go hunting, but the men did permit me to partake of a native hallucinogenic drug, usually forbidden to women. Signed, Janet Siskind. Okay, we will find out more about Janet Siskind's interesting story. We will turn the questioning over to Nipsey Russell.
Number 3, what do those Indians trade? You said they trade with the outside world.
Yes, they trade skins.
Skins from their hunting?
Yes, they do.
Number 2, what kinds of weapons do they use for hunting?
They use bows and arrows, shotguns.
Shotguns?
Shotguns.
Number 1, do they eat these meats raw, or do they prepare them in cooking utensils? 1.
No, they cook the meat in cooking pots.
Number 2, can you tell me about that hallucinogenic drug, what it does?
Well, it reacts the way LSD is supposed to react.
What do they use it for?
They use it to get a high, and they say they use it primarily to cure and to learn to know.
Number 3, are there groups like tribes or with a chief, or how is their society formed?